Hello and welcome to the installation tutorial for the latest version of Aurora for X C#, version 2.1. In this tutorial we'll be covering the requirements to get the game installed as well as additional notes on compatibility and post-installation fixes which can seriously affect your game experience. But before we get into the meat of the video, there are but a few things I want to cover to help you navigate today's tutorial. The first is that this tutorial has a written component which you can find in the description, and the second is that you will be able to use the chapters which you can make use of to move to any part of the video that you need to either rewatch or want to specifically look at. And to help with that, on screen you can also now see the chapters we'll be covering today. So without further ado, let us get right into the video, beginning with the requirements for installation. In this chapter, we'll be going over the requirements you will need beforehand to properly install and play Aurora for X C# 2.1. This will include compatibility as well as certain applications you will actually need to install the game. The requirements are listed on screen and are separated into three categories: external requirements, compatibility, this includes things like resolution and operating systems, and then finally specific rules you're going to need to follow, otherwise you will not have a working installation. So let's start with the first one, external requirements. The main external requirement you will require is an application which will allow you to archive and extract downloaded files. This is usually done by 7-zip or WinRAR. I will be using 7-zip for this tutorial, and as part of this tutorial I will be showing you guys how to download and install it. So let's begin with that. First, you want to go to the 7-zip website. You can see that now on screen in video. Once there, you want to make sure to download the 64-bit Windows version, assuming that you're using Windows as your operating system. And once you've downloaded it, you then want to follow the automatic installer, which will pop up when you click the XC. This appears on the bottom of your screen in your browser. Then you will open it and begin installing the program to anywhere you want on your computer. Now that 7-zip is installed, you have everything externally you will need to be able to install Aurora for X C#. So let's move on to the next section, compatibility. Aurora for X C# has certain compatibility issues, and I will be listing what works and what doesn't. This will largely be over your operating system and the monitor resolution you have access to. As you can see on screen, the operating systems have varying levels of compatibility. In this case, Windows is the most preferred and is what Aurora was built on, and it will give you the best experience possible. Linux can work from what I understand, but you are going to have to look at older posts and information to try and get it to work. It will require extra fiddling from your side, and so keep that in mind if you do intend to try and use Linux with it. macOS is not compatible at all, and I've not seen anyone be able to play it on a Mac, so do not play the game on macOS. If you do intend to try use a virtual machine or Rosetta, honestly, I would say the same thing with Linux, use a virtual machine. Next up is going to be resolution compatibility. 1920x1080 is the best. This is what most people will be using. If the windows appear too big or too small, you can use window scaling in the Windows options. But the lowest minimum resolution you can have and be compatible with the game is 1440 by 900. Otherwise, you have significant cutoffs and significant problems with accessing windows within the game itself, as resizable windows are not a thing. Now do note that there was a mod that allowed smaller resolutions to play the game, but its support was discontinued after version 1.12 2 versions ago. But it can still technically be used, you just have to use it at your own risk and understand that you will not have any bug support if you do have issues with your modded install game. And I do not provide any installation for that here. You can find that on the forums if you go digging. Now, before we begin the actual installation process, there are some primary rules you're going to need to understand. The first is, do not install Aurora for X C# to important directories. This specifically relates to program files or Windows directories. The next, you need to make sure that you're using HTTP and not HTTPS on the Aurora for X forums, otherwise you're going to have issues accessing the site. This is because the site is old and somewhat out of date in a lot of ways, and because of this, it doesn't really recognize HTTPS when downloading certain files. And third, if you're having any issues downloading the files you will need that we're going to be downloading today, then check your virus firewall and make sure that you're allowing the install files to actually be installed correctly, and also change the browser you're using if it's not working on, for example, Chrome, Firefox, or something else. Change to a different browser, like, for example, Edge, Opera, or something that you feel comfortable with. So let's get installing the game itself then. This chapter will detail how to install the game from start to the end. Reminder, if you miss anything, make sure to pause or rewind, and there will be a video on screen to show you the process as I am doing it. Without further ado, let's begin. First thing you will need to do is to go to the Aurora for X C# forums and find the thread called C# installation. Keep in mind you do not need an account to install or view the forums. Once you are there, you will then need to select a thread called Aurora for X C# full installation version 1.0, or just short C# full installation 1.0. Once on that thread, you can then download Aurora for X C# 1.13, which we will need as the base for our install. After you've begun the download, you then want to exit out of that thread and select Aurora for X C# version 2.1 patch. And once you have found that, begin downloading it. Once you have both of them downloaded, the next process is going to be creating a new folder on your desktop. This can easily be done by right-clicking on your desktop and hitting Create a New Folder, or doing the same in your File Explorer within one of your different file drives.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Once the folder has been created, we want to go back to the downloaded files that we have downloaded and open them with 7-zip or WinRAR or whatever extracting software you are using. Once open, you can then hit the extract button on the top left of 7-zip for that downloaded version of Aurora. We're going to start with version 1.13 and then point that extraction to the folder we just created, extracting the files we downloaded to the new folder we created. Once extracted, we then want to do the same with Aurora 200 RAR, or otherwise known as 2.1, which we also downloaded. We want to replace any files once we have done so. This will ensure that we have the correct version of 2.1 downloaded on top of the base version of 1.13, which we just did. And congratulations, you have now installed Aurora for X C#. You can head to the folder you just created and you should see all the contents of the game inside. Run the XE and we have finished with the installation process. There's nothing much more to do. However, if you want to confirm that you have installed 2.1 correctly, you can now do so. You can open up the game by hitting the XE and head to the middle left of the tactical map and hit Miscellaneous. And at the very bottom of the Miscellaneous tab on the middle left of your screen, you're going to see version 2.1. If you do not, then you've installed the game incorrectly, and I suggest having a look back at the video to see what you did wrong. Now let's move on to some fixes that you're going to be thinking about if you are ever going to have issues with the install, depending on where you're from, or if you may have installed it incorrectly, or if you have certain different needs. There are a few things that we need to go over before we can start playing the game. The first is that there is an issue that affects players from certain regions, usually Europe and the United States. This usually relates to the date format of the game, which is based in the UK, as the game was developed by someone from the UK. Not only that, but there is a second issue that is similarly related. This issue relates to the decimal separator you use for numbers. Like the date format issue, it's the same cause. If you do not fix either of these issues, your game will be unplayable, as the date format issue will screw up all your dates, which, while you can deal with, is not very nice, and this mainly relates to research or the dates at the top left of your screen. But the decimal separator will screw up your research numbers, your growth numbers, every single number you have. I mean that essentially you're not playing the same game that anyone else is, and you're playing a broken game, so to speak. So how do you fix this? Well, the first thing you can see on the screen is a map of countries which have a different decimal separator to the UK. If you're in the blue country, then you do not need to change your decimal separator, but you may need to change your date format. If you now do need to change either, what you will need to do is head directly to your operating system's format settings. In this case, I will be showcasing the most commonly used operating system in 2022, which is Windows 10, and the one I use and which is fully compatible with Aurora. Follow the on-screen video and navigate yourself to these two tabs once they're matched, and match them with mine to have the exact same settings. Now what you can do is utilize different accounts on the same computer so that you can switch to one account with these settings that on Windows, and when you want to play Aurora, you then don't have to have your entire account switched to the settings, which you may not be used to. Do note, however, if you're in a country that is in the UK or a country with the same format that matches these settings, then you should be completely fine and not have to worry about any of this. If you continue to have difficulties, feel free to leave a comment in the description below. And finally, let's conclude what we've learned here today and what we've done. With the installation process now complete and the fixes applied, you now have a fully working install of Aurora that you can play at any time. So now you may ask yourself, what do I do from here? Well, luckily for you, this channel and this series that this video is in, and that is part of the tutorial series as a wider whole that I do, answers just that. In the description will be a link to a Reddit post containing important information for getting started in Aurora, from tutorials like this to the Aurora Discord to join the community. There are also countless videos on this channel and guides on the Discord or on this channel itself to help people, and the people on the Reddit and the Discord, the community as a whole, are always willing to help people out. But in conclusion, I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial and I wish you good luck with your Aurora for X C# game. I have been Space Marine and I will see you next time. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, it really does help out, and consider becoming a member to financially support more videos like this. I'll see you guys next time.